So, welcome to our Wisdom Wednesday with myself, Sinead, and the wonderful Siobhan Murray. Siobhan is the burnout solution. She has her best-selling book of the same name, and she owns a business called Twisting the Jar. And the name behind the story of how she came to choose Twisting the Jar is something quite phenomenal, and reigns from a journey through life between her and her mum, to the point where they're standing in their kitchen after her mum has set up one of Ireland's first employment agencies. And her mum stretches out her hand and offers Siobhan a jar for dinner that she's cooking, and she's unable to open the top of the jar. She asks for the help from her daughter Siobhan. Siobhan opens the jar and they move on. And for Siobhan, this is a metaphor for all of the times in our lives when sometimes we're with other people and actually we fear reaching our hand out and asking for help. And to that point in their life, Siobhan and her mother had been through a journey that travelled journeys, distances, both physical and personal, but also through different medical ups and downs. So Siobhan is joining this evening to talk about burnout, but also to talk about how we can manage burnout and manage not to get to the point of burnout while we are working from home during these unprecedented times. So thank you so much, Siobhan, for sharing this space with me and for holding the time and for giving of your time and energy and knowledge. So thank you.
Oh, I'm just so delighted to be here. I'm a huge fan of your work and the way that you communicate and just, you know, I think when you see people online and you don't get to meet them, as we don't, and you're following what they do, and you kind of go, God, I can relate to that. So I have to say, it's an honor for me to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Siobhan. And as somebody who finds compliments difficult to take, I'm saying thank you, and I'm going to own that. So thank you very much. So, Siobhan, when we think about burnout, and burnout is now a recognisable, it's in the DSM-V, which makes it a very clear clinical diagnosis from a practitioner's perspective. So if we're thinking about burnout, what does burnout look like for me or you or anybody else as an individual? What are the telltale signs, or how do we diagnose burnout?
But I think it's really interesting because it was in 2019 that the World Health Organization gave it, it's now referred to as an occupational phenomenon. Now, as far as I'm aware, and I have checked recently, they have not changed that since 2019. So, which is interesting considering the last 12 months that we've had where our occupation for those that are working has been brought under our home roofs. So that kind of blurs that line. And then even at that, burnout is, I suppose it's one of those words that we do have to be very mindful of, because chronic burnout is where people will be signed off work, where people are medically very ill. And in my experience, I haven't worked with a huge amount on a yearly basis. It would be maybe 5 or 6 people who would have been signed off work for a minimum of 3 or 4 months. And they're literally rebuilding. So that's what we don't want people to get to. We want, so when people are starting to feel that level of I'm exhausted. But I refer to, there's a beautiful definition of burnout, which is emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion brought on by emotionally demanding situations. Now, occupational work can be emotionally demanding. And it's nearly, the way I see it is where people are so emotionally invested at everything else. So they're emotionally invested in their work and their kids and their families, their partners, the washing machine, the cooker. They're pretty much invested in everything else. And there's no emotional investment in themselves. So they become depleted. So you're now going to have cynicism. You're going to be, it's that disengagement from work and your personal life, fed up, not feeling like you actually are making a difference in anything. You can then start to have issues with sleep, not being able to fall asleep, not being able to relax. And that's the not being able to sleep, irritability. But I think one of the big ones, and as well you add in the last 12 months, is that inability to actually sit down and relax, even though we have more time. We don't. So, because you look, I look at the burnout. I have a bit of work done around burnout 2021. So now, not only do we have all the other things that we had, we've worries about COVID, we have climate worries, we've economic worries, we have worries, childcare. Are they going to school? Are they not going to school? Am I ever going to be left with the kitchen table without having to do, thankfully I don't have to do seesaw, but I've heard it's like a dark, evil word.
Oh my God.
So I mean, I think you add in all of those things, and we're left with not an awful lot of time left for us to sort of regroup and to put that emotional energy into ourselves.
And I suppose I'm trying to kind of think of it from my own perspective and from my own practice. So I talk about the ands in your life. So it's the work and, the life and then the career and. So what you're saying, Siobhan, is that when all of those ands crashed into our homes, around this time last year, for many people, we lost the space that we would have retreated to relax or to take time out, or perhaps not, because home is not a safe place for everybody. But home has been the epicenter of everything that we're doing. And some of the very early warning signs that you're on the road perhaps to burnout is that you are feeling just that you've nothing to give, that everything is a chore, that everything is a job, and you've lost enjoyment in things. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, and I think, we talk about, that downtime at home. And I remember, Sinead, January 2020, I was standing in one of the last few speaking events live with human beings that I could see and touch. And I remember, and I was talking about self-care, and I was speaking to a room, 250 women. And I was saying, we need to get over this thing that self-care is a Saturday thing, and that it's getting your hair done and your nails done, and I'm going to have a little break, I'm going to go off and do, and I remember standing there going, because imagine if all of that got taken away from you and you didn't have your Saturday self-care routine, which I refer to, by the way, as maintenance. That's not self-care. It's call it whatever you want, but but we've had that taken away, and we didn't really look and go, well, what am I going to replace it with? What am I going to do? So as you say, we're at home. For some people, yes, it's a safe space. For some people, it's not a safe space, or it hasn't been a safe space, and there hasn't been an outside outlet to go, okay, I'm just far from going for another walk. We've been very much left without any forewarning. And I think that was the really important thing. And that's why I don't call it remote working. Remote working is where you've consciously had a conversation with your company, and you've come up with a plan, and that you work towards, it's like moving home. When you're going to sell your house and move, or you're going to rent somewhere, there's a plan in place. You don't just wake up one morning and do it, because your emotions take time then to catch up with the physicalities. The same with, the schooling. Absolutely, there's homeschooling, but again, it's a choice. People haven't had that choice.
Yeah, so when the choice is removed, I suppose you can begin then to have these feelings that you're not getting, or you're not in control of life. And then that can then move towards a feeling of, lack of choice. And then that results in other feelings that can then lead to burnout and overwhelm. And as you said, a lot of the things that we would have once done are now happening in our homes. And if we are working from home, we might be at the point where we're feeling, well, am I burnt out? Am I, at the point where, yes, actually, I'm not really sleeping that well. I do find it really hard to relax. I'm triggered each time I see the computer, or each time I see my phone and it lights up, there's a notification there. So what kind of really practical steps would you give, Siobhan, for anybody who's in that point? And I think there's a lot of people at that point where they're either maybe waking up at night and not getting back to sleep, or they're just not able to get to sleep, or they're not able to relax, or they don't ever want to walk within their 5 kilometers again, or they don't ever want to see the same, beach or forest or whatever it is. So what would you say, and particularly when that self-care routine is gone, and it's not possible to do, how would you say, or what would you say we can do to help us to row back a little bit and to begin to feel that sense of, okay, so I'm recognizing what's happening here. I want this to stop. I need to help myself. What can I do?
So at all times, the first thing, and it's funny, it's a question I get asked all the time. What's the first thing I do? The first thing you do is acknowledge that you actually are not in a good space. The first thing, you accept it. You acknowledge and accept it, because all too often we don't even do that. And
can I ask, Siobhan, sorry,
yeah.
Do you acknowledge and accept it by saying it out loud yourself? Or do you say it to somebody else, a bit like the twisting the jar piece, where you maybe are among people and you've been afraid to say it or not said it? So because I think it's really important that we're so tangible, and I know that you're brilliant, at that. So
yeah,
we say it out loud to ourselves, but also to somebody else perhaps, or is that necessary?
Absolutely. I mean, there are some people who do live on their own, so maybe they don't have the opportunity to say it to somebody else, but actually even saying it out loud, going, I actually am not in a good space. Okay. I am going to do something about this. Okay.
Brilliant. So you follow it by saying you're not in a good space, but you follow it with an action. I am going to do something about this. You choose an action. You choose to be proactive.
And it's not I need to, it is because need is a chore. If I need to do something, that's now I've just got something else to do. It's I need to go for a walk. I need to eat better. It's all a chore. I am now going to do something about it. So what are you going to do?
Okay, so this is how I'm feeling. I am now going to do something about it. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Now, something to do, maybe picking up the phone to speak to somebody. Or it may be that you can go, okay, what am I going to address? So I always have the 4 pillars, your 4 basics, which is
brilliant.
Your sleep, nutrition, exercise, and clutter. And I see those as the 4 corners of your bed. And you want to have those 4 corners, that bottom sheet tucked in. Then when you have those 4, the bottom sheet tucked in, then you can put the duvet in. That's your gratitude. That's your mindfulness. Put the pillows on the bed, put the throw on the bed, put all the nice things on. But if you're sticking the nice things on the bed and the bottom sheet is all crumpled, you're not giving yourself a fighting chance. So you're
not going to sleep very well. Absolutely. It's going to be, that's a brilliant analogy. So like the decorations are nice to have, but the essential piece is the 4 even pillars off your bed with that sheet underneath it, and then add the other stuff in.
And then you add
I love it.
Yeah. And you just focus on one corner first, and then you work, and the one that is the most important. And I think this is really interesting, is sleep is the most important. It's key. It is the mother, as I call it, of all self-care. It is up there. And isn't it funny that we kind of go, oh God, I have to go to bed now because I need to get 6 hours sleep because I have a busy day tomorrow. We never go, oh, I need to get up now, I have a busy day. But we actually, what I'd love to see people do is flipping, going, oh God, I get to go to bed now.
I love it.
I'm getting to go to bed. So it's nearly seeing it as an appointment, of a really lovely appointment with themselves that they get to do. Because the more we fuel our body with sleep and rest, the more energy we have physically, mentally, and emotionally to deal with all the stuff that we have to the next day. It doesn't make it go away, but it actually helps us to manage ourselves in managing all the stuff in the pot.
So if, as we're sitting here now and somebody's thinking, okay, so I'm not in a good place. I want to change. I don't want to get to burnout. It's important for me to stay well. This is what I'm going to do. The pillar I'm choosing to focus on is sleep. What's the smallest thing that they could do, or what's the smallest next step that they could take to move one step further to that, or closer to having a better night's sleep, would you suggest?
So, I mean, and we know this, we've read enough about it.
Of course.
People know, I have my phone goes on do not disturb by about 8:30, 9 o'clock, so nothing alerts. So if I choose to look at my phone, I can, but I'm not distracted by my phone coming in. I also have it set that little ring goes about 10 o'clock and it tells me to go to bed.
Okay.
So it's that natural. I have that routine. So I know my routine literally starts downstairs. It's not, we think about routine as what happens when you get in the bedroom. But that routine is I lock up my house because I'm a single mum. I make sure the front door is locked, the back door is locked, the dogs are sorted, candles are off, you shut the doors. And as I'm walking up the stairs, I then know I'm getting to go to bed because my routine has started from the bottom up. It's not, oh, I'll do it this. We get quite fractured with our routines. I'll do it this way, I'll do it that way. So I would look at getting to bed roughly the same time every night and getting up the same time, and then even at the weekends. So even if that means if you have the opportunity to get up at the weekends and not have to get up with children, but make a cup of tea, go back to bed and read your book, but get up at that time. Don't try and force your body to sleep, because it actually takes you another 2 to 3 days to get that sleep pattern back. So you're back into Tuesday, Wednesday before your sleep has regulated itself.
It's actually called, it's social jet lag. So, or sleep jet lag as a result of kind of like shifting your sleep pattern. But I think what's really interesting in that, like you've mentioned, and for you, it's, and obviously in your practice as a coach and as a mentor and as a psychotherapist, rituals are an important thing, and they're like your rituals of recovery that we've spoken about, or I've heard you speak about. So you mentioned, I lock up, and that's almost the first little message to your brain that this is the time to start to switch off. So there's a ritual attached. Blow out the candles, and perhaps the candle actually is part of the ritual of going to bed. As you put the phone on notification, the candle gets put on. So you're reminded that this is a smell associated with bed or whatever that routine might be. So help me understand a little bit about the importance of those rituals, please, Siobhan.
So, one of the things that I really noticed, and this has very much come to light pandemic. So pre-pandemic, I was aware of it, but on a very, I think, subconscious level. But I don't know about you, but I look forward to my 2-week holiday in the sun every year. It is, once it gets to January, the flights get booked. We don't go till July. By May, I have the suitcase down. I'm literally getting into it. So here's the reality. This is what I call and now refer to as runaway recovery. And something that we have all done, whether it's a week down the country, a weekend away, we work really, really hard with this idea in our head of, I've got this little breakaway, so I can work flat out. I'm not going to mind myself. You don't even think about not minding yourself because I've got this runaway recovery. But what I also think is quite interesting is that actually the 2-week holiday is probably one of the most stressful times in your life every year. The packing, the organizing, the getting the kids ready, getting your kids ready, getting work covered, getting back from holidays. Everyone's out of the routine. You're still trying to manage. But we convince ourselves that this is our runaway recovery, that this is the best thing.
And then you go and do all the things when you're on holidays.
You run around like a lunatic, inevitably kind of get a little bit sick, get a head cold or something on the plane. Then you
blame the air conditioning for the head cold, but actually that's not the reason you got it in the first place.
Because your body has literally got, whoo. And then And then we come back and we unpack and we've washing clothes for another month. And we think of that. And as much as, and I'm not knocking the 2-week holiday.
No, we all love it. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely love it. And it's great. It's so important that we have that change of scenery. It's so good for our brains, regardless of where we go. But if we kind of go, okay, we don't have that anymore for now. So what are our rituals? What are the things that we're doing every single day? And then what's something that we do once a week? And then what's something that we do maybe once every 2 weeks? What are those rituals? So that regardless of whether we have our runaway recovery or not, we're actually doing okay anyway. So the runaway just becomes a bonus. It's not the be all and end all that we've put all our eggs into one basket. So those rituals, you know, what I've been doing January, February, and this month is Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 in the morning. I do a 20-minute breath work and Pilates. It's 20 minutes. By the time it's started, it's finished, which suits me perfectly because anything longer than 20 minutes, I personally have zoned out. I'm now, you know, my brain has gone to Aldi.
The special buy aisle. Yeah, I know.
What's on this week? So it's finding what those rituals are that's going to work for you, because your household, your kids are a different age than mine. So I can do that at 7 in the morning without a kid coming in going, what are you doing? What's going on? Give me attention. For somebody else, it might be that ritual is they get out for 15-20 minute walk at lunchtime, or, you know, whatever it is. So our rituals are all going to be different. It's not a one size fits all. And I think that's something that always struck me. You know, we don't all have to be getting up at 5 a.m. and meditating in front of a Buddha and journaling and doing all that.
Or foraging for our food afterwards and then doing an ultra marathon. And I think a little bit, and I love Instagram and I love the community that is Instagram, but I think it has led to a little bit of that sense that if you're not doing all of these things, and then you enter into this toxic positivity that you and I both have an issue with.
You know, I have, and actually just a last note on
sorry
on just on the rituals, just to make everyone be a little bit realize what normal is. A really good morning ritual: get up
at the same time,
get downstairs and make a cup of tea.
I love that.
You've done it. You've arrived. That's your ritual. That's enough. If you're just feeling overwhelmed, that's enough.
I love it.
You know, we don't have to be competing with people. This toxic positivity of, if you're not journaling and, you know, if you're not, well, oh my God, it's another day. Yahoo! Let's all, you know, it could be worse. Sure, you know, so-and-so down the road, they're much worse than you. You look at all the things you have to be grateful for. Everyone is affected by things in their own way. And it is so important to be able to go, I'm having a bad day. This is just, I've no idea. I cried watching the news. I watched a Netflix. I don't want to get dressed today. I haven't showered since yesterday. That's okay.
Yep. And I think this is the beautiful thing about how the rituals tie in with, like, your ritual can and is your ritual. It doesn't have to be kind of ceremonial cacao making, or it doesn't have to be a sea swim, or, you know, and each to their own. So, like, for me, for example, I love the journaling, and I love the 60 seconds of journaling, and I really enjoy opening the windows actually and letting whatever the air is outside in. And I think there's something very beautiful about what you're saying. You know, we have these 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are sleep, and that's the cornerstone, or the one that holds things up. And then we've these rituals that can help you to manifest and to take care of yourself at different points during the day. And just because they're not the same as, so for example, yours is your 20 minutes breathing and your cacao, for me, it's the fresh air and it's a little bit of writing. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's almost dinner time in our house because the kids have been up for so long. So as you say, that won't work, but then the writing won't work for you. So the ritual is your ritual and it's one that works with you. But would you say, Siobhan, that it's important to hold the ritual for a period of time to see if it's working?
Yeah, I think with anything, give it a few weeks.
Yes.
Do the one ritual that I got into the habit of very much when the first lockdown was, and I had seen it. There's a book written about making your bed and the positive effect of making your bed. So it's funny. So actually, to tie in with my make a cup of coffee in the morning, is the first thing I do when my feet hit the floor is I make my bed. Now, I am in a blessed situation that there is nobody in the bed that I'm having to make the bed over. So this, again, won't work for everybody, but I make that bed. So, and, as part of my rituals, it means that no matter what's happened in my day, and because I'm working from home, but it means every time I walk into my bedroom, I have one thing I've achieved. I've made my bed. I'm not making my bed at 11 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, or thinking,
or before you get into it.
or before I get into it, and just thinking it's chaos everywhere. It's that, and it's something I stuck with. So adding in, for some people, it doesn't matter whether it is journaling, but give it a go. Give it a week or two. Don't
I totally agree.
force it. Yeah, don't go, am I doing it right? Because there is no right or wrong. It doesn't matter if your journaling is doodling, if you're bullet pointing, it doesn't have to be an essay. It's what sits with you and makes you go, actually, I'm quite enjoying this.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the toxic positivity comes in, and it's quite linked, where you can feel you have to do all of the things and you have to be grateful for breathing. And I think gratitude has kind of become a little bit plastic in that, and that's a whole other day's notion. But there's a very strong scientific basis to gratitude, and I think it has been lost a little, and that's perhaps something we'll explore in one of these further sessions. But I think what you're saying is have a ritual of recovery that isn't linked to something that's very commercial or that 2-week getaway, but something that is tangible and is cost effective, because this pandemic has been very difficult from a financial perspective on everybody, I think. So you have your ritual, and then that helps to catch the burnout before we get to that chronic place where you're very medically very ill.
Yeah. I actually, it's even if you break it down, when I talk the types of recovery that we have, and I think this is really interesting, Sinead, because again, last March, people went straight into, as rituals of recovery, their types of recovery, people jump straight into mastery very quickly.
Yes.
And mastery is the ability to learn something new that is unrelated to work. But there's absolutely brilliant time and place for that. But to start with, you need to have your detachment in a good place. So detachment is the ability to not think about work in non-work related times. So that means to also not think about the kids when the kids are okay, to be able to switch up. So to be able to get your detachment into a good, healthy space. And then equal to that is relaxation. And relaxation is low effort. Now, low effort means you can still go and run if you want, if you're training for a marathon, but it's something that doesn't involve a huge amount of brain power. So it's reading, going for a coffee, going for a walk, watching TV, journaling, something that's low effort for you. So when you've got those in a good space and you can kind of tip between both of those, you can then look at mastery. But jumping into mastery, as I call it, the banana bread recovery, because that just exhausted people even more. So mastery, there is a time and a place for it. And if you've got the other two and you're doing good, then absolutely look at those outside the box activities that have nothing to do with work. Might be going back to college. It might be learning to do something new. But if you're going straight there and you have the other two, you're actually going to add to the possibility of heading to burnout.
Yeah, and I think, Siobhan, that's a really important point, because sometimes we think when we are more productive, we will feel better and therefore we will be well. But actually, it's the other way around. We need to be well before we can be productive. And that actually, in order to be well, we need to have periods of time in our day. And as you said, those rituals need to be daily, weekly, and it's not another to-do list. I'm doing it because I want to do this, because my health is important to me, and we need to have them kind of across the course of time, so that we're actually building a bank of resilience to burnout. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because it's that emotional bank. It's that,
Yes.
imagine that if we're constantly giving, if we're emotionally it's an emotional investment. So more often than not, we are emotionally invested in just about everything else. So it's nearly, we're high achievers. And by high achievers, it's not like we're trying to get a promotion or anything. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to be overly the best we can be. So much emotional investment to something else that we're literally, we're dehydrated, we're cramping, we're lack of sleep, like our bodies.
We're not moving.
We're not moving, but we're still going, have to keep going, have to keep going, must keep giving, must keep giving. And there's nothing left for us. And that's not sustainable.
So you're saying it's really important to press pause,
yeah,
and to say, okay, I'm pressing pause for me. These are the rituals of recovery that I'm going to put in place, irrespective of the space that you're in terms of burnout. You could be at the very early phases, you could be at that phase where you're just tipping over, or in fact you could be at the chronic burnout phase, and that's where really you need to be getting some medical help and support, because if you just feel you've nothing else left to give. But those rituals of recovery will help. And by saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling under pressure, I need help, I want help, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the smallest thing that is within my control that I can do today to help. And I'm focusing on that.
And that may be making your bed every morning.
Or your cup of tea, or
your cup of tea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and and the thing is as well, even with chronic burnout, with anyone that I have worked with chronic burnout, they haven't been put on any medication, because the reality at the moment is that burnout is dealt with lifestyle changes, and much as they can be signed off work, it can lead into other areas where we're looking at depression, and we're now going down a different path. But really, burnout is managed with lifestyle changes, not with medication. So
isn't that so? Medication has its place.
Absolutely.
But I think it's wonderful to hear somebody of your skill and expertise saying, this can be managed with techniques that are clinically proven and that are followed, but simple things that we can all do that are good for us generally, but will also help our simple lifestyle changes. And I love that notion of low effort.
Oh,
it's just gorgeous.
No, I mean, we all want to set the standards high. We want to set the standards high for our kids. We want our kids to sit at the table and use knives and forks the right way, not put their elbows on the table. We set all these expectations.
We do.
But actually, right now, we are in the middle. Still middle, and I will say middle. Sometimes we're nearly at an end, but we're actually
we're not. No, yeah,
we're not. We're in a global pandemic, so this isn't about dropping the bar, right? It's not. We're not telling people that's it. Just give up. This is just about. It's like when you see a bar on a rack, and there's lots of different levels to it. This is just about bringing it down to a point that you can manage, and then when you've got comfortable with that, you can put the bar back up again whenever you want. But you can bring it down whenever you want.
I absolutely love that. I think that's so magnificent. Like rituals of recovery, but one of those rituals of recovery is actually something that's low effort. And it's not about raising the bar. It's actually about saying, this is the bar. I set my standards high, but at the moment I'm choosing to just, I'm choosing a ritual of low effort. And I think that's such a beautifully empowering suggestion for anybody who is struggling. And I think when I say anybody, I mean everybody, because I know I can only say and speak from my own experience at the moment. I found this past the lockdown exceptionally difficult, and not and we're very lucky in our home, and we do have lots to be grateful for. But there are days that I really, really struggled, and if I had given myself permission to go low effort, that would have taught my kids a lesson also. That some days the thing to do is actually to take the foot off the gas to avoid the burnout. It's just beautiful.
I have another little visual. One thing I realized as an adult, I'm a visual communicator, is you think of all the balls that we juggle as women.
Yes.
And, you know, we've got family, extended family. We're juggling all these balls. And I used to do this when it was a face-to-face and in-person event. I get people to actually juggle balloons, because it's really hard to juggle balloons because they go all over the place. But if you imagine that visual of juggling glass baubles from the Christmas tree, the really expensive ones, and we are so determined that we need to keep them all going. Obligations, the must call 2 friends today because somebody said must be socially connected, so must do that. That's my obligation. Friends, yeah. Family, yeah. Must call my mother, yeah. Must call auntie so and so, yeah. Must feed the kids, must give them healthy food, must not give them fish fingers. You know, all of these balls, and we're terrified we're going to drop one because it's going to smash and it's just going to, you know, then we're a terrible person. But actually, those balls are not glass balls. They're not those fancy ones from the Christmas tree. They're actually plastic balls from the ball pit. And if one drops, it's fine. It's just going to rest on the ground until you're ready to pick it back up again. It is not going to shatter. So if the kids get beans on toast for dinner, that's okay because you've got a deadline and you've got work to do. If the washing doesn't get done, you will get it done because you're never not going to ever get it done. It might pile up, but you'll pick it back up again and get it done. It's not the end of the world. So we need to get out of that mentality that these are glass baubles and we need to keep everything going. We can put some of them down so we can focus. And maybe that focus is spending the day on the sofa with the kids and everything else gets put in the ground. You know, maybe it's a work thing and actually the kids get put on front of the sofa for the day because you have to do the work. That's okay. You'll still get back to the kids.
And I think that's brilliant. It's to give yourself that permission. And then it's also to recognize that if you have and you're unable to pick up any of the balls any day, that then that's perhaps when you need to ask for real help. And that's when you're entering into the chronic. And that's the other things that are happening that are related to burnout, but that are not burnout itself. So when it's that chronic feeling of overwhelm and being unable to cope and thoughts of not being able to manage, that's when you kind of put the hand up and go, this has been going on for too long, I need help. But it's the other pieces that you're talking about that is something for the day or for a couple of days or whatever it is, and it's just low effort. I just adore that. And so I'm very conscious of your time because you've been so brilliant in and kind in sharing your experience and your expertise and your knowledge, which I'm really humbled to have been privileged to. But I'm just interested, is there one thing that you would say, you know, is important? You've got your 4 pillars, you acknowledge how you're feeling, what you're going to do, the smallest step that you're next going to take. Is there anything else that you would say is important, Siobhan, or that I've missed and should have asked or talked about?
I suppose, and I mean, I think this is something that we could do a whole other session on. And it's very well known that, and I speak very openly about it, I gave up drinking 13 and a half years ago. But I suppose in more recent times, the reality is that we see alcohol as a perceived distressor. And don't get me wrong, Sinead, there's always drink in my house. My mum loves her glass of wine, and I don't sit here going, everybody should give up. But, you know, if it's very easy when we're feeling overwhelmed and we're stressed and we're not asking for help to go, I'll just have a glass of wine. And that glass of wine to turn into 2 glasses of wine. And you know, maybe even 3. But then that feeds into poor sleep, not being able to get to sleep, irritability, not feeling great the next day. We kind of think, well, I don't not have a hangover, like I'm fine. And the cycle continues. So all I would say to anyone who kind of thinks I am drinking a little bit too much, and people know when they are, like they don't need to be told by somebody else, that you use this opportunity, listening to this, to go, actually, you know what, I'm going to just be a little bit more aware of my drinking, because that's not going to help you get through any of this. So, you know, if that was my one other thing, is just be mindful of it and enjoy your glass of wine or 2 or 3 when you have it. But if it's something you're doing every day or 4 or 5 days a week, you just look and examine why you're doing it. What is it as a distressor? Because it's not.
And if anyone kind of, I listened to and heard your wonderful interview with Oliver Callan on the Ryan Tubridy show on RTE earlier. When did you do that? It was before Christmas.
Yeah, it was in November. It was literally to mark my 13 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I knew it was before because it just was, we just had the baby, but I listened to it, and as I said to you, I was stuck to the spot as I listened to it, because, and I think there's something really important in that interview, and we'll include that. I'll put that into a link in my bio, and obviously I tag you and everything as we go through this. So it's something to listen to if you are kind of concerned about that, and thank you for bringing that up, because it's really very important. So with that in mind, I suppose the big takeaway for me is, and you know, the pillars, and it's to look at the pillars and to really understand, you know, what's the one small thing that you're going to start with, and then I absolutely am going to do low effort rituals of recovery, and I'm going to talk to my kids about them, my girls that are old enough, because they can understand that, and we teach them not to do low effort because they know how to do it brilliantly. So I'm going to take a leaf out of their book.
Yeah, and that's, you know, and just to say as well with the low effort, just in case anyone goes, well, she said exercise, my God, do I have to jump around to Joe Wicks? No, the exercise piece is it's what I call smart or intelligent exercise. And really what I mean by that is get out for a 20-minute walk every day. That's it. If you do anything else, fantastic, well done. But this isn't about, oh, I need to do the couch to 5K. Just get out, move your body, breathe, shake your shoulders out. You don't have to time yourself in your walk. 10 minutes one way, 10 minutes back. That's all. Just get out. If you can, on your own, just to have that little bit of space, if you can.
I love it. Siobhan, thank you so much. That was absolutely gorgeous. And I'll do a little small article and share it with you and with others as well. And thank you so much. And the best of luck with the rest of lockdown.
Thank you.
Take care. So Siobhan from Twisting the Jar and the Burnout Solution.